In Game of Thrones, we see Bran Stark influenced through dreams of the Three-Eyed Raven, a character who has the ability to see into past events through the power of weirwood trees. We really get no explanation to his backstory or how he came to obtain this ability. In the books, the character is known as the Three-Eyed Crow and is Brendyn Rivers, a Targaryen bastard of King Aegon IV, also known as Bloodraven. Bloodraven is a practicer of the dark arts, serves as hand of the king, and has a vast spy network before he's sent to the wall for committing a war crime. He quickly becomes Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, but disappears mysteriously for decades until we see him in the main book series. This is an area where the show could make a rather large change and perhaps make this character Daemon Targaryen. While accounts of the end of the Dance of the Dragons makes it seem as if Daemon dies in battle with Aemond in a dragon versus dragon combat above the God's Eye, Daemon's body is never found, leading to speculation that he somehow survives the battle. Given the proximity to the God's Eye itself and speculation to what is actually on the island, the connection to weirwoods and possibly Children of the Forest, it's possible in the show Daemon, not Bloodraven, could be taken by the Children of the Forest to serve as the Three-Eyed Raven.
All right, listen, I mocked you and I said that we lost you. I might buy this one.
I think I could. It would be a very. I could see it.
Like
the old.
It's ridiculous.
It really. Well, yes. So first of all, I guess we need to talk. There's so many things we need to break down in this. One, good move or bad move in Game of Thrones of not explaining further who the Three-Eyed Raven was.
Well, bad in the sense that they should have done it, but
right.
Okay in the fact that like maybe this ties in later. This is also something they could inspect in like the Duncan Egg show if they do that. Like that's
exactly
the way they could tie it in. Like I think that's a lot more logical than this theory, but leaving it ambiguous definitely leaves it open for the show canon, which that's all we're talking about, folks. The show canon.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like all of these, but the show could now use that if they wanted to.
Possibly. They could. And it would connect them. Yeah, what's interesting is that, in the show, the Three-Eyed Raven, well, for starters, it's one of those other things where you see the Three-Eyed Raven once, right? And it's a totally different actor and stuff like that. Then they cut back to him and he's got a shaved head. I don't know how that works, but whatever. And they didn't really explain it further. In the books, the character is so much more important, so much bigger, and the fact that it's Bloodraven is such a big deal. And again, we probably have a lot of new listeners today. And just in general, if you're somebody who, I know we have a lot of our listeners in general are show watchers only. So you're like, I don't even know who this character is, right? I mean, you know who the Three-Eyed Raven is, but you're unfamiliar with, say, Bloodraven. Very important character. I mean, very, very, very important. They didn't touch on that in the show, which I guess is sort of fine because you maybe don't have the time, or maybe you don't want to yet introduce yet another Targaryen. Even the fact that Bloodraven gets to that cave and becomes this character in its own right in the books is still yet to be explained and very significant. I do believe in Winds of Winter we will get some more details of that event because it's very important and has a lot of implications for Bran going forward. But here, if you did want to make it Daemon, there's a lot of reasoning for it. And also, Daemon's death in the books is also incredibly mysterious. When he and Aemon have the big battle over the God's Eye, dragon versus dragon combat, we know that Daemon either jumps from his dragon or something, stabs Aemon through the non-eye, and Aemon's body is recovered years later. Daemon's body is never found. So we don't know exactly what happens to him. Some people believe he swims over to shore, but it's also by the God's Eye, a very mysterious island, which could, in all honesty, have like all of the big secrets of A Song of Ice and Fire could take place on this island that's full of weirwood trees and perhaps Children of the Forest. And if Daemon were to, say, end up over there, who knows? Yeah. I also think the possibility, one last thing, I also think the possibility that even in the books, if Daemon does survive, he could serve as a three-eyed crow or raven, or three-eyed crow in the books before Bloodraven, because we don't even know who was there before Bloodraven. Was there another person? Like, what's going on in that cave?
Shit. Okay. I like where you're going with this. Yeah, you're right. We don't know what comes before Brendyn Rivers. Was there a Bloodraven? Like, or was there the Three-Eyed Crow before Brendyn Rivers? That's a good question to ask, probably, right? And hopefully we get those kind of answers in the books. I mean, I do think that this is a cool theory in the sense that I don't believe that Daemon, if the body's not found in fantasy, folks, it means they're alive. Every time.
Absolutely.
Every time. And a lot of people have speculated that Daemon just runs away with Nettles. Some people, I've seen some theories say that they think Massaria will end up being Nettles, like a stand-in for Nettles.
Right.
I've seen some other theories as well, but I can't remember exactly who the person was. But regardless, I mean, I do think that we're going to get the answers of what happens to Daemon's body at the end of House of the Dragon. And while we're still asking what that will be, this theory is in play.
Yeah. I actually think it's more likely that Daemon dies in the show, but lives in the books.
You think?
Yeah, it's just his character. It's this is where I could go either way. That's another thing. Like, that's another theory we don't even know yet. We'll have to come back for another iceberg, as we get maybe season 2, because once we have some more information, it's just Daemon's character is so strong and powerful, and he's making these decisions. It's just, it's one of these things that it's just like, it would be so fitting to really kill him, in this battle. But if you do go this route, then it has potentially huge implications to tie into Game of Thrones and potentially going further.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Daemon, look, it's one of these other questions. When Daemon chokes Rhaenyra, is he's part of him is very upset that that Viserys told her this thing, this secret, this sort of like heir. Like, that's really what it was more about. Like, hold on, he actually did choose you sort of as an heir over me. He told you the secret. He's my brother. But I wonder if Daemon will begin to like question her at some point. Like, what is the significance of this? And I could see Daemon thinking of himself as this like true savior of Westeros.
Yeah, I could see that. I also can see the idea of him wanting to get away from it all. And the fact that, like, one of the things that's been most important to Daemon throughout this whole process in the show is that he wants to return the Targaryens to like their proper place as, being superior. And he really does care about the Targaryen name and the family, and at least what it represents. And as he's seeing the dance happen and he's watching everything come crashing down and everyone he knows dying, like, does he just give up on that at some point and want to go away? Maybe. It's going to take a lot of character development to get him to that point from what we've seen in season 1, but we do have a lot of time. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a fun one. This is a really fun theory. It is outlandish, but like I said, it's still in play.
It's almost Daemon in a way is almost like Stannis, where Stannis decides, I'm going to go take on the others. Right, that's the whole reason he goes north of the wall. Right, all right, we'll go take him on. We'll go defeat this army Melisandre's telling me to defeat, because then it will show Westeros that I am the true king. I can see that. I can see Daemon doing the same thing.
I see. Yeah, and start going down and then start doubting that path. Yeah, it absolutely could happen.
And maybe it's King's blood. Daemon has King's blood.
Well,